Hi, Rory. Hi, Douglas. Welcome to Taking Stock.
Hi, Kalila. Thank you for having me here.
Great.
Hi,
So,
Kalila. Thanks for having me
cybersecurity,
here.
thank you. Cybersecurity is one of those topics that people don't really think about, or I should say, most people don't really think about until it's too late, because you guys think about it all the time. But, Rory, I want to start with you by looking at the hard numbers. When a Caribbean financial firm gets hit by ransomware today, is it just a bad week for the IT department, or are we talking about losses that actually impact the share price and dividends?
So it's actually more significant than just a bad week for the IT department because when you get hit by a ransomware or any cyber incident, it may actually take months, even up to years, to fully recover. So let's think about it from different angles now. So yes, the share price can be impacted, dividend payments can be impacted because you're going to start thinking about loss of availability of the systems. If your systems are down and you can't do any transactions, customers can't purchase items, that will result in a loss of revenue. If the company is losing revenue, then of course the financials will be impacted negatively. Even thinking about like a reputational damage, have you ever witnessed cases where you hear an organization was affected by a cyber incident, you see that the systems are down, you hear that your personal information has been leaked? Would you continue to do business with them, or would you be skeptical? We have seen instances like that right here in Jamaica where organizations have been impacted by a cybersecurity attack. Information has been leaked, examples of those information has been leaked, and this is across different organization, different industries. So we see it in the financial industry, we see it government, in the health industry was the most recent one in 2025 that would have had a significant impact where sensitive health information was leaked. If you start looking on it from the numbers perspective now, a average data breach can result into about $2 million US. That's a global, that's the average impact within the Caribbean. The global
Wow.
impact is actually higher. It's closer to 5 million US dollars. So in 2025, it was 4.8 million US dollars. And year on year, it keeps increasing. So imagine your organization hit by a cyber incident and you're now going to be responsible for spending 2 million US dollars. A lot of organizations don't even generate 2 million US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And then to
Mm-hmm.
add on top of that, what if you get fined by the Jamaica Data Protection Act? Because the Jamaica Data Protection Act, if you are negligent in a cybersecurity breach or incident, you can be fined up to 4% of your gross annual turnover. So all
That's a
of that
lot
is
of
hitting
money.
the financials, right? And if you're a director, you can also be fined $5 million or 10 years imprisonment. So those are just some of the financial implications. When you start thinking about recovery, also, you have to spend to start recovering, restoring, and hardening the infrastructure. I always recommend being proactive because when you're proactive, you can spend a fraction of what you're going to spend in terms of being reactive to try and restore the system. So proactive looks like us coming in, doing an assessment of your environment, doing an assessment of your network, finding the vulnerabilities and working with you to harden and to fix those. So just in case an attack happens, you should be able to withstand those attacks. Or in the worst case, if a breach occurs, you should have processes in place to restore and recover as fast as possible without having that negative impact on your finance and operations.
Yeah, that's very, very substantial. Now, one of your speakers at the GSCDP Summit is going to be Jason Lau from crypto.com. And he's warned that 2026 is actually a tipping point. The experts are saying that hackers are now using AI to drain accounts faster than humans can even react. Is that just hype or is that the new reality? Because if AI can fake a CEO's voice and likeness or automate an attack, does that make our old firewalls just completely useless?
So I wouldn't say it's completely useless, but we are now on the perimeter of being attacked anytime, anywhere. And with this sophistication in terms of using AI, you'll hear about deep fake attacks, leveraging AI to craft phishing emails. So, for example, before, let's say 5 years ago, if an email comes in that's called phishing, then you would look for misspelling, the grammatical errors, the verbs aren't correct. Leveraging AI, attackers can utilize the tools to craft emails. So for example, an attacker may put in their pretext, let's craft an email pretending to be Kalila. This is the name of the company. Utilize her tone, and it will craft the email accordingly because you have a public record. You have a lot of videos out there. You have a lot of articles, so it will gather all of that information and write the email as if it's coming from you. And then attackers are also leveraging AI to create the email, utilize the timeliness when it's going to be sent out. So is it that they're going to send it at 9 a.m. in the morning versus 12? They're going to look at all of those. And those are some of the things that we also do when we're utilizing social engineering techniques. So not just phishing email, but targeting the human element. The human firewall will always be one of the weakest link. So it doesn't matter how much you invest in technology. If you're not investing in the human element, meaning training the users, advising them about some of these attack vectors, some of these weaknesses, then they can simply just write down your password, click on a link, and your entire organization is now impacted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's bring Douglas in because Douglas, you sit at the intersection of fintech and strategy. Now, if Rory is saying that these attacks are happening faster than humanly possible, can a board of directors still claim we didn't know? Because if a bank goes offline for 3 days because they were cheap on security, is that a governance failure and not just a technical failure?
Kalila, thanks very much for having us. And you are spot on. You are spot on. That's exactly why we call this wealth preservation. And this includes having solid cybersecurity and data privacy best practices. So, with these AI driven cyber threats, with how fast they're evolving, boards can't plead ignorance. If you don't understand the risk, you are liable. It's simple as that.
No, looking at the summit, which is coming up in early February, and I'm going to be hosting it, you've built it specifically for what we call the global south. Why do we need a specific approach for this region versus just buying the latest cybersecurity software?
Yes, indeed. We're really looking forward to you co-hosting the summit, Kalila, along with myself. Dr. Mawador is an expert in cyber simulations and live simulations in these AI-driven cyber attacks. We can't just import a generic fix. We need to train our own people to lock down our data and fight these AI-driven threats head on and in real time. So that's why we brought the experts here from the global south and the north so that we do not become easy targets for these global attacks.
Makes
What
sense.
I'd like to add on to that too, because one of the things that you have to take into consideration is that the Caribbean is unique in terms of how it operates. So based on our experience and our threat intel team, some of the attacks that you see occurring in different industries and around the world does not necessarily target our region. Or if it's going to target our region, it may be a few months down the line. So for example, certain technology organizations don't utilize in our region. So if an attacker is utilizing that vulnerability or that exploit to gain access to a system, if we're not utilizing it, then we would not be impacted. However, the flip side is that we are also lacking in terms of updating and upgrading some of our systems, our infrastructure. So hackers may target older vulnerabilities and exploit those to gain access to the systems. So we're pretty unique in terms of some of the vulnerabilities that we identify. So for example, weak passwords are still being identified on networks, default credentials. That's really a culture mindset, and it's very important for us to understand that we have to focus on training individuals. So yes, you can think about all of the tools and technology, but we also have to educate everyone within the region about these vulnerabilities and threats. So AI is going to be used to emulate these attack vectors, but you still have to start from the basics before you even jump to AI, because then you may start to think about post quantum computing and cryptography, all of these advanced items. But if we start from the basic and utilize our cybersecurity roadmap, then along the way you will harden and get more robust in terms of thinking about cyber threats.
Mm-hmm. And Douglas, just as we wrap, the CEO or a CEO might be watching this and thinking, sounds good, but we can't afford to send the team right now. What is the cost of not being in the room on February 2?
Well, Kalila, the cost is relevancy. If your competitors are using AI to secure their organizations and you're relying on outdated strategies, you are simply open to real financial and reputational risk. So we look forward to welcoming executive and management teams. It promises to be an excellent summit that will drive real and long-term value for these organizations in the global south.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing more at the conference coming up on February 2. Thank you, Rory. Thanks, Douglas.
All right, thank you for having
Thank
us.
you very much, Kalila. Thanks, Rory.